We deal in paint, pigment, light and shadow, realism, surrealism, impressionism, and ghost stories.
An interest in the oddball, a predilection toward the bizarre. And this place is nothing if it isn't bizarre.
There's no admission, no requirement of membership, only a strong and abiding belief in the dark at the top of the stairs, or things that go bump in the night. The name of this place, should you have come in here accidentally out of the rain, is the Night Gallery.
Welcome back, art lovers, to Midnight Viewing, the Night Gallery podcast, where we discuss Night Gallery, Rod Serling's follow-up to The Twilight Zone. I'm Father Malone, and here with me in the gallery are the Kolchak tapes, Chris Dashew.
I'll think of something at some point.
And also the Kolchak tapes, Mike White.
Have you seen the little boy? He's about 5'5", very dark hair.
I have. I think we all have. Anyway, we are here to discuss season number 2, episode number 10, which aired on November the 24th, 1971. The episode is split into 2 segments. Those are The Dark Boy and Keep in Touch, We'll Think of Something. Now, before we get to that first segment, I've been highlighting talent behind the camera and in front of the camera here on Night Gallery, and this one is no exception, although it's in front of the camera here, and it's going to appear in this next segment twice. Here it is. Right, that is Single Owl Hooting. This one was created by Thomas Valentino back in the 1930s for his Valentino sound effects library for the Major Records label. It was eventually included in the Chilling, Thrilling Sounds of the Haunted House record from 1978, which is an album I buy instinctively every time I see it. I have like 5 copies of it here. The effect that you heard, the Single Hooting Owl, every effects library has their variation on it. It's all the horned owl, interestingly enough, which is the most sort of common owl you'll ever kind of run into. Incidentally, this is a digression, but in Boston growing up, we at the Museum of Science, they had an owl named Spooky. It was on, I think, the 2nd floor in kind of a nocturnal section, and that owl hated me. Kids would like crowd around the plexiglass cage and it would be fine with them, and it would see me and it would just start screeching and staring wildly. Anyway, Single Owl Hooting.
It knew something they did not.
Yeah. There's something ain't right about that boy. And
The owls know. The owls know.
The owls are not what they seem.
The owls are not what they seem, Father Malone.
That's right. No, the owls are still sleeping. It's a millennium thing. Anyway, Single Owl Hooting, we're adding you to the Night Gallery Hall of Fame. All right, anyway.
You're about to join a roster of students in a learning experience quite without precedent. The painting is called Dark Boy, and this particular repository is called the Night Gallery.
Our first segment is called The Dark Boy. This one was written by Halstead Wells from a short story by August Derleth, his 2nd adaptation here on Night Gallery this season, and directed by Mr. John Astin. This is his 3rd editorial segment on the Twilight Zone on Night Gallery. This one stars Elizabeth Hartman, Abigail Moore, and Michael Bassalon. It's a story of an Old West teacher who has an unusual student, or maybe she doesn't. What'd you think of this one, Mike?
Well, before we even start to talk about that, you kind of gave me a little bit of a segue there. We're talking about the Twilight Zone. Did Serling screw up somehow? Because they ADR'd his line of the Night Gallery as he was introducing the painting of the Dark Boy. Did you guys pick that up?
I did notice that. Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
Did he say the Twilight Zone?
And there was a whole lot of smoke in the opening segment for some reason in this thing. But yeah, was it? I think his back is turned when he says Night Gallery eventually, right?
Yeah,
it might be. Yeah, that was just bizarre. I was like,
"Hi, I'm Rod Serling, and this is
the Night Gallery." Yeah.
Sorry, Rod, not Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you enjoy this episode of the Night Gallery. Like, all right.
So what I think of this
Serling's Night Gallery. No, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
So what I thought of this, I thought this had a lot of promise. I like this whole idea of the teacher who has 17 students, but no, dear, you're only supposed to have 16. And she's kind of getting gaslit by these old biddies who just seemed like they would have been Samantha's relatives, but I don't think either of them were. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Okay, eventually we find out that this kid died, and that they're thinking now, well, maybe we should move the schoolhouse or rebuild the schoolhouse because he's going to be haunting these grounds. But it is so weird the way that the information is doled out to us, especially like what, halfway, three-quarters of the way through this story, where the old farmer shows up, old as in like 40 years old, shows up and is like, oh, here's my son, he can barely be in class, I use him for work on the farm, kid's 5 freaking years old, and keep him away from ladders. And I'm like, what a weird non sequitur. And so I guess our main character is a real Sherlock Holmes, because she figures out that the dark boy must have been killed falling from a ladder. Yeah, it felt a little long in the tooth. I thought there was a lot of promise here, though. That's my opinion anyway.
How about you, Chris?
Well, you gotta love the title first. It's great. The Dark Boy. It's just, boy, it really rolls off the tongue right into a, into an area where we just know where this is going immediately. I'm joking. This episode is fine. It's fine. Like, it's inoffensive, and the story that it's telling is cutesy, and it's a little melancholy. It's a little heartstring pulley. Like, it's fine. I just don't. As an audience member sitting here watching this segment, I'm wondering what the director and the screenwriter, or the teleplay writer, because it's based on a short story, I'm wondering what they were hoping we would take away from this, and I'm not sure by the end of it. That even those who lost can be found again. Maybe, but they spend 2/3 of the episode, like her, like Mike said, being like a Sherlock Holmes, trying to figure out what's going on. It's like, what do you mean what's going on? Like, it's pretty obvious what's going on here. Like, I don't know. It was fine. It was okay. I think my favorite thing about this show right now is we're in this weird spot where it's like, on this week's episode, 5 people who you've never heard of, like Gail Sondergaard. Like, okay, fine. I don't know. Like, it's weird. All of a sudden, like, the show for a while was having like people who are very bigger names, and all of a sudden it's like a couple people that are just like clearly mainstays of television at the time, or part of Serling's troupe of people that he normally works with. I mean, it's not a surprise that this episode is directed by John Astin. He has been as big a part of this show as anybody has, frankly.
I think we're spending an entire season with a lot of Ghosts of the Frontier, like gentle love stories in both cases, werewolves, then just straight up ghosts here. I can't wait for our vampire Old West story. This one is incredible.
Is that a thing?
No.
Okay, good. Thank God. I was going to say, I'll just, I just won't be on that one. You guys could do that. You guys, it'll be fine.
Oh, and the Serling one. That was another Old West ghost one too, because we had the Phantom Farmhouse with the Old West family that were a bunch of werewolves. So,
oh boy,
oh yeah, this season of Night Gallery is a pretty good document of the hills outside Los Angeles and the changing of the seasons, because it's much more autumn now here than we got just a couple of weeks ago with Big Surprise. I'm echoing what both you guys said, because I was very intrigued going into the episode, and I liked those 2 gossipy women that she has to deal with, who are keeping secrets from her, and I like the doling out of the clues and everything. But in the end, what did we get? Which is, I'm not sure, but ultimately what we do get is this ghost is befriended by the new school teacher, who is then befriended by the ghost's father, who doesn't have a wife, and they have a romance, and then together they coax the child out of the schoolhouse to go home with them. I don't know. I'm so glad that the trauma that this child endured, that was so jarring, that he can't find his way out of our plane of existence, brought these 2 crazy kids together. That's what I took away from the end. This was supposed to be kind of sweet, and I was just horrified by the entire affair.
I didn't get that they were becoming a couple. So congratulations to you. I just did not pick up on that at all.
Congratulations to you.
I mean, for serious, you definitely picked up on something that I did not at all.
I think the episode wanted them to be a couple, but I don't think it earned it remote. I mean, look, it's like the same issue we're going to have with the next segment. It's like, what the fuck are you trying to earn here? Because none of this is earned. It's very strange. Like, it's worse here than it is in the next episode because really there's no chemistry between either one of them at all. Michael Bazelon doesn't look like he could be bothered. He's like, hey, my son, come back to me. I love you. Please don't go away. And it's like, turn in a performance, please. Don't just mumble through your lines.
That's funny. In my notes, I wrote Michael Bazelon, not great. The emotion, exclamation point. Head on hands on plate. But that scene is supposed to be their courting scene, as twisted as that is. But once she sees him in that sort of light, that she kind of falls for him. And in the end, she takes his hand to lead the kid out of there. And the kid, who doesn't even realize that he's dead, I guess, is trapped in this schoolhouse. Has he no memory of his mother? Isn't he going to be confused by this new relationship? I don't know. There are lots of questions that this thing brings up that it's not interested in or remotely capable of answering.
But by the end of it, I guarantee you the showrunners thought they had in a satisfying way. It's like, far from it, guys, far from it.
Yeah, they thought they tied up everything in a nice bow, and really, I was just horrified by the entire ordeal. What are the rules here for ghosts?
Yeah.
The Rod Serling rules. They don't know that they're alive, but they can go to the other side, as in heaven somehow.
Do the other kids see him?
Yeah, no, the kids don't, because that's a point in it where, like, on the first day she's talking to the child and all the kids kind of like stare at her and then immediately like flood away to go back home. And then the old ladies later on in the episode say like, oh, well, we knew when the kids said that they saw you talking to nobody there. So the kid, the ghost, I mean, is appearing just to her? Like he knows it? I don't know. There's no...
They all heard you talking to a little boy, and that's how they all know you're fucking crazy now. Like, what? Like, wait, the fucking what? Like, it's almost like there's two separate ideas here at play. One where it's like we're having this character try to figure out what's going on, and then the other part where it's like this weird love story that does not work because it's not given enough time to work, and I don't think it would have worked anyways because they have no chemistry between the two of them. And Michael Bazelon has no charisma, so I don't know how Elizabeth Hartman could remotely find him attractive or enticing because he seems so flat. It's like he's not even real. It's like he's a character in a poorly written TV show.
Right. The reason why I called him the old man earlier is because even though he is a younger man, he seems like the old crotchety farmhand. It's just like, well, a bunch of strangers coming to town. I don't trust anybody. But
education is for the devil.
He's not that person, but he acts that way.
Also, stay off ladders. Keep the kids off the ladders.
Get this kid off my... if there's a ladder in this room, get him out of here.
I'm just very superstitious.
Yeah. First they want to teach us CRT, and now they want us kids on ladders.
Why was a child on a ladder is my question. Like,
what was the child doing on a ladder in that one-room schoolhouse?
I just couldn't see him. We just couldn't see him. It's like, what the fuck? It's like a box. It's a literal box.
Yeah.
Hanging a drawing or something. Who knows? Speaking of drawings, she's encouraging that one kid. He drew a six-legged horse. That drawing was terrible. Shame on him.
The teachers are supposed to be encouraging the youth of tomorrow, both alive and undead.
Not these kids. They're all going to be dead by the next planting season.
So, I'm sorry to tell you, children, but we don't have enough food for all of you. So we're taking half of you down to the orphanage, otherwise known as the field out back.
We've had a severe case of cholera. Sorry.
Yeah.
The one other thing I noticed, at least in the copies of the show that I'm watching, instead of fading to black for commercials, they've been using the paintings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very effective.
It's very jarring.
A lot.
It was jarring to see it for the first couple times because I wasn't expecting it. But now they did it and noticed it more in the next segment because I must have caught it immediately as opposed to like maybe looking away for a second. I was like, oh, is it over? I was like, oh, okay, no, it's not over. It's still going. Like it fooled me into thinking it was over. And now I'm like, okay, now I get it. I think it does work. I think it works better than just fading out and fading back in.
Eases you back into your spot instead of just coming back from the latest Borax ad.
Snap, crackle, and pop. Rod Serling only smokes Marlboro Reds. They give you that smooth flavor
That's not true. I think he smoked Chesterfield.
Oh, really? I don't know what Rod Serling smoked, but I'm sure the answer is out there.
He seems like a Chesterfield guy. I mean,
He does, yeah. I'm trying to remember. Was that Chesterfield really satisfies? Was that their slogan?
right.
Jeez.
Whatever it is, it puts out a lot of smoke.
It's
I
toasted.
presume that most of you, in moments of weakness or in spasms of compassion, have picked up a hitchhiker. The story behind this item here has to do with a man who stops his car and invites a stranger in. And such a stranger. The kind that makes you wish you'd taken the bus or stayed in bed. Its title, Keep in Touch. We'll think of something.
Our next segment is called Keep in Touch, We'll Think of Something. This was written and directed by Gene Kearney. He's an auteur now. This one stars Alex Cord, Joanna Pettet. This is her second appearance. Last time she was directed by John Astin, actually, and Richard O'Brien. No, not that one, Rocky Horror fans. I find this one kind of hard to describe. It's about a guy who, like, here's my synopsis. A guy is dreaming of a girl, like, keeps getting, somebody help me here. Somebody describe this thing. This is one of the most bizarre segments of television I've ever.
A guy dreams of a woman and then invents her stealing his car, and then she actually exists. But it turns out she's hoping that he murders her husband because she's been dreaming of him too. And so she essentially causes it to happen by the end of the segment.
Right.
I just summarized you don't even need to watch it. Does that sound interesting to you? It wasn't interesting in execution. So in explanation, it's just about as bad.
I was interested for a while. I was interested when I had no fucking concept of anything that was going on. And then when I realized that it wasn't interested in giving us anything concrete, then it kind of fell apart. But as far as on the baffling meter, it's a 10. It's a real success in that way.
Yeah, I'm glad, Chris, that you broke it down, because I was just like, what is happening in this? Because it starts off very interesting. I was very intrigued by this whole idea of Alex McCord, who, my God, he talks a lot in this episode, and I kind of like it. You know, I like his voice, and I just kept thinking of him as, what was he in Airwolf? Was he Hawk in Airwolf? I think it was.
That's where I know him from. Jesus.
Yeah,
right.
He didn't have the eye patch, so he was out of disguise. But yeah, he talks a lot, and he comes in. He's just like, "Hey, this woman, she stole my car." Comes back, "Oh, she stole my car again." I'm like, "Okay, this is really bizarre. Who is this strange woman that's stealing his car?" And then you find out it's all a ruse. I'm like, "Okay, well, that was the most interesting part of the episode. I'm totally tuned out now."
Yeah.
Then what's the name of the name of the episode? Keep in Touch, we'll think of something. I kept thinking of that Maury Amsterdam, like, don't worry, we'll think of a title. You know, it's like,
yeah,
what is this thing?
I was hoping we'd just talk about Airwolf because it has Ernest Borgnine in it. Can we just do that instead for 5 minutes and call it good? This is like beyond unintelligible. I wait, what? By the end of this, I was genuinely concerned for the people making this show, that they were confused by what they were doing too. Like, I don't think anyone making this episode had any idea what the fuck they were doing. From Alex Cord to the people who wrote it, to the people who filmed it. I mean, like, when you're sitting on set and you read this, like, here's the thing. The people who were in this read the script, and they read it just like we watched it and or could read it. What the fuck do you think they were thinking? Like, oh, this is really good. Like, no, it's fucking not. Like,
they got to speak to Gene Kearney, who probably explained what his intention was, and then they went, "Oh, okay," and then they went with it. And the rest of us are less foundering because he didn't deliver it to us.
Or they went, "Okay, Gene," walked away, rolled their eyes, and made a jerk off symbol. Like, I don't know. Like, again, what could someone explain about this that this doesn't already spend 20 minutes trying to explain? That entire scene in the bar is beyond unintelligible. Like, they're all, I imagined you and you imagined me, and it's like, what the fucking what? Like, what are the rules here? What is going on here? Who are you people?
But you have a scar on your hand and you don't have one now, so let me stab you with these scissors.
Yeah,
you won't be able to go on tour and you'll have to stay home with me.
It's like a 22-minute segment, and it's 11 minutes of one story and 11 minutes of another story. It's about a guy who keeps getting conked on the head by some sultry blonde, and she keeps stealing his car. And then it's a story about two people who've been dreaming of each other, and she's going to force his hand quite literally to kill her husband. Like, those are two good stories. I would have liked to have seen either of them played out in their full potential, but that's not what we got here. I will say that I really liked his leather pea coat. It was really good.
No, yeah. Yeah, man. I
Yeah.
mean, he looks good. I mean, Alex Cord looks good. He looks proper 1971.
Well, he looks good, and the drawing of her looks amazing. I was just like, oh wow, that's a great piece of art. Like, and it's so funny because I don't think that that's the art that starts this episode, correct?
No, it's not at all. But what I wrote about the police sketch is, be on the lookout for a sultry blonde on the streets of San Francisco.
Yeah, really.
Gorgeous piece of artwork. Like, I mean, it's her, obviously, but just not that.
It would be like if they did a drawing of him from her. It'd be like, look out for a man with long hair and a mustache in 1971.
Sure, you'd notice him right away. Yeah, they were very distinctive. And they were both married at the time, by the way. This is another night gallery sort of.
Yeah, they did that once before, and it was really good. Remember the one with the witches and the witch taking over the woman's body?
Boy.
Weren't those two people married in real life as well?
Were, as well as Imogene Coca and King Donovan and the bricking him up, Cask of Amontillado, the Merciful.
That's the best one.
Married as well. Yeah, that's the best one overall.
Because it's like a minute.
Yeah.
Look, you know what's surprising? Rod Serling's name isn't on this anywhere. Like, this is even worse than he has done. This is probably the worst thing we've seen so far in terms of like being able to follow what's going along. Like, what's happening in the episode is hard to follow because the episode does not seem like it understands the story it's trying to tell. It feels like there's things that the characters know that they're not telling us that we're never going to find out.
It's not worse than Tim Riley's bar.
Yeah, there's no one singing for "He's a Jolly Good Fellow."
Yeah, but at least we all understood what that was trying to do.
That is true.
At least I was like, I get what the point is. It's super saccharine and bullshit, but at least you nailed that. This, I couldn't tell you what are they trying to tell us?
I mean,
Like,
this is up there with the David Carradine one that we just talked about as far as nonsensical.
Oh, they're all hanging out at this weird mushroom tree stand thing at the beginning. Like, wow, this will be cool. Just kidding.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, oh, this has an interesting 10-minute setup, and then 11 minutes of two people just going, I dreamt about you. Yeah, and I dreamt about you. Interesting.
Yeah. And John Astin dreamt about that lady in the house or whatever that was. Or no, the lady dreamt about the knock at the door. That was a John Astin directed episode that I'm thinking of.
And Joanna Pettet. That was the same actress. So, yeah.
Jesus.
You know, it's funny, just on like logistically, the police haul her in based on the fact that a cop recognized her from that sketch, and they put her in a lineup. And at the end, when the police say to her, basically, you know, he's obviously filing false complaints, you can pursue a civil action against him. But it's like they pulled her in based on a sketch. He didn't do anybody. He came in and then told them a couple of stories, and then they went out and arrested her. She's got no civil case against this guy.
And then she just shows up at the bar, smiling and happy, ready to spend time with him. It's like, why are you actively spending time with this person who might be unwell?
Yeah, who had me dragged down to a police station and make me stand in a lineup.
Yeah, like, I would be far away from this person, not engaging with them any further, not happily going and sharing a drink with them. But again, then you have this secondary story of, I guess she was dreaming about him, but wasn't as crazy as he is, to the point of, again, he's nuts. He's fabricating a story to try to meet a woman that he doesn't know if she exists or not. What is the mental stability of that character? He's our main character, and that's why we're following him. But like, that's not something a sane person does.
But she's been dreaming too, see?
But she hasn't been doing the crazy shit he has, unless was she clubbing him over the head? No, I don't think so.
She should have been, though, right? That would have been
right.
Like, that conversation would have been totally different. You know, look, I rescinded the police order for you, but you got to stop conking me on the head. What is it you want? You really want that bad? You seem to have money.
My nickname for you is Little Bunny Foo-Foo.
God. Oh, no. Hopping through. God damn it. Somehow these two segments deserve one another.
I
They kind of do. They're both more or less unintelligible as to the overall theme that both segments are trying to get us to understand, or that the filmmaker is trying to impress upon the audience. I don't know what it is. And the second one's even worse than the first one. First one's just very melancholy and saccharine, but this one's just like, okay, sure, whatever story you think you're telling, I bet you think you told it.
But this one does have an excellent leather shirt that he's wearing at one point.
And that mustache can't be beat.
No, it's so good.
Which episode, which segment's better?
You know what? You got me there. You win. How about they both suck? How's that? We lose. We're the losers here by having to engage with this segment any longer than anyone else has to.
Yeah. Gene Kearney wins again. All right, we're going to play a preview of the next episode, and we'll be right back to wrap things up.
H.P. Lovecraft, known to the aficionados of the occult, demonology, witchcraft, as a master storyteller, is responsible for our first selection in this museum of the frequently morbid. To you connoisseurs of the black arts, you'll probably recognize it. It's a painting that tells the story of a young artist who recruits his models from odd places. And the models are very odd indeed. The painter's name, incidentally, is Pickman. The title is Pickman's Model. We're all familiar, I suppose, with mediums and seances. The slightly curdling nocturnal event in which the dead come back to visit through the good offices of a middleman or woman. It's a sport that lends itself to table tappings, some ghostly manifestations that float transparently across the room, and a few distant sepulchral voices. This painting offers a new side to the familiar seance because it tells what happens when a seance is successful, but the appearing dead isn't the one expected. Offered to you now on the Night Gallery, The Dear Departed. And now, Night Gallery's slightly distorted version of history, an act of chivalry.
That's right. On the next Midnight Viewing, we'll be taking a look at Season 2, Episode 11. That's broken into 3 segments. Pickman's Model, The Dear Departed, and An Act of Chivalry. Until next time, what are you working on? Where can people find it, Chris Stashu?
You can find me at weirdingwaymedia.com, where you can find this show and so many other shows that Father Malone, I, and Mike White all put together on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis.
How about you, Mike?
Stole my thunder. I was going to say the same thing, the exact same. I had it all written out. I think Chris stole my notes.
He does that a lot. As for me, what they said, my audio content can all be found over at weirdingawaymedia.com. Thank you all for joining us here at Midnight Viewing. The gallery is now closed.